Hey guys, it's Dahni here and welcome back to another poker video. Today we're going to be recapping a session that I played on December the 14th, which was technically 1-3 but pretty much played like 1-3-6 the entire night. One of the symptoms of playing 1-3-6 when the maximum buy-in is only 400 is that the players are playing a little bit more passively because they're only starting with less than 70 big blinds. So there weren't as many action hands this time as there has been in previous episodes, but nonetheless we've still got a lot of good footage, a lot of interesting hands to recap, so let's get right into it. Alright, our first hand is a small one but a fun one. We look down at 8-7 of hearts in the big blind and it gets opened by under the gun to $10 and we make a standard defend. The flop comes down ace-6-5 with 2 clubs and we check it over to the aggressor and under the gun checks back. The turn is an offsuit queen and we lead out for $15, not really looking to showdown 8 high, trying to take the pot down now, or we could potentially hit the river and win a big pot as well, and under the gun calls. The river is an offsuit ace and I kind of figured that this isn't really the best card to bluff on, but at the same time our opponent has capped his range here, so we just lead out exploitatively for $25 hoping he'll fold, and he quickly makes the call and we're met with this reaction right here.
I knew you were bluffing. What are you fucking on about? Like, dude, try to fucking bluff me out of a pot.
So not the best start to the session, but there'll be plenty of opportunities to make up for that later. In fact, this guy was killing it the entire session. This is him making quads versus a flush, and this is him winning a 3-way bump pot set over set for piles. So he was pretty unbeatable all night. In our next hand, we pick up pocket kings on the button, and the pot is opened by the cutoff to $15, and we make it $45 to go. The cutoff makes the call and we go heads up to a flop. That flop comes down ace-ace-queen, and after the cutoff checks it to us, we make a standard down bet here that we do with our entire range, make it $30 to go, and he folds. So we take down a nice small pot there. Alright, in our next hand, another small but funny pot. We open king 10 offsuit from the hijack and the small blind flats, so we go heads up to a flop, and that flop comes down ace-jack-6 with 2 diamonds. Our opponent leads into us for $10. So with a gut shot to the nuts, definitely continuing here, trying to get all the money if we somehow make our hand. What do you think? I'm just going to run away?
Yep. Never. You run? No, you just walk.
The turn is another ace and she is not scared. She continues for 25 and we just have to fold here. I'm running away. Fuck that. Yep. We always seem to find hands on the button. This time we have ace-king of spades, and this hand is playing 1-3-6-12, so under the gun +2, limps, and we make it 55 to go, folds back around to under the gun +2, who makes the call. So heads up to a flop, and that flop comes down queen jack 9 with 1 spade. So not the greatest board for my actual hand, but a pretty good board for my range. I'm really not sure what the optimal strategy is. I'm probably c-betting range here, and that might be a little over aggressive, but that's exactly what I do here. I c-bet $50 and our opponent check calls. The turn is the 5 of spades, which is a great card for us. We pick up the nut flush draw, and keeping in mind that our opponent has about $350 behind him, looking to size the turn in a manner that allows me to jam river for maximum fold equity. So I felt that $85 would be a good bet here, and that's what I proceed to do, and our opponent goes deep into the tank before finally check folding. Did we say river? Got there, I guess, kinda.
I like it how you say, I got there, I guess, kinda.
Yep. For this hand, we're in the big blind, and there's an under the gun limp, the cutoff makes it 12 and the button calls. We look down at pocket 3s, standard defend from us, and under the gun also completes. So 4 ways to a flop, and that flop comes down king 10-4 with 2 spades. So standard check fold for us, but that's not actually what happens, it checks around. So we get a free look at the turn, and that turn's a beauty. It's an offsuit 3, giving us bottom set. I check the turn with the intention to check raise. I think there's also merit to betting out, but in this instance I wanted to try to build the pot as much as possible. I figured in a multi-way pot, pretty wet board, that someone's going to be leading out here. And so it checks around to the cutoff, who bets $20, gets back around to us, and I put in the check raise to $70 here, and the cutoff quickly calls. The river's a pretty innocuous deuce, and we look to polarize our range, putting in a bet to the size of $150. The cutoff takes no time before calling, so we table our set and it is good. So we take down a pretty healthy pot here.
Hey.
Three. Not even like the three of spades. That's how you do it. That's how you do a Dahni
Shut the
house shot.
fuck up, man.
For our next hand, we're on the button and we look down at 9-8 of diamonds. This pot is playing 1-3-6 and the under the gun player makes it 15 to go. Under the gun plus 2 calls, we call on the button and the straddler also calls. So we're 4 ways to a flop and that flop comes 10-8-4 with 2 diamonds. So we have middle pair and a flush draw, pretty strong hand. The straddler checks it over to under the gun who c-bets for $40, a pretty large bet. I would usually expect the under the gun player to have a pretty good hand at this point. The under the gun plus 2 player also calls, and we have a bit of a decision on our hands. We could elect to call or raise here. I'm gonna have a lot of combo draws in this spot, and something I was thinking of in the moment was the fact that I don't want to be raising all of them. That being said, a pair plus flush draw is one of the strongest type of draws because we can get action from plenty of worse hands. And even against overpairs, it still performs really well. It's really only sets that we're in bad shape against. So I would prefer in hindsight to be raising here. I was a little annoyed at the fact that I didn't do that and just elected to call. And the straddler also calls, so we are still 4 ways to a turn. And that turn comes an offsuit 4, so not a great card. It pairs the board, nullifies any 2-pair outs that we may have perceived ourselves to have. The straddler checks it to under the gun who continues for $100, so at this point I'm really expecting her to have a strong value hand. I do have a bit of equity here. We could elect to call, but that decision doesn't even come around to me because the under the gun plus 2 player jams all in for $339 and I'm definitely annoyed at the way I played this hand. Sadly, we have to let it go at this point. It folds back around to the under the gun player who calls and they are both all in and they both have ace-10 offsuits. So they chop up my money and look, that could have gone very differently if we elected to play that hand a little more aggressively. Not a fan of our line here. For this part, we're looking to have a bit of fun. We look down at King Queen suited in the small blind and it's folded to us, so you know there's no fun in raising and taking it. I hit up my friend on my left and ask if he wants to show one card as we play out the hand, and he obliges, so I'll just let the table audio play for this. It's a small pot, but this is some of the cheeky antics that we get up to and I think it's pretty entertaining.
This feels like me for sure, because I've got the higher card. No, I'm doing 5 for sure.
Like me now, Jack 9.
You must have a pair by now.
I didn't lie last time when I told you how to play.
Yeah, because there's no point bluffing you because you're just going to call down.
Oh my god. Interesting roulette. Interesting.
King Queen. What is that? What is that?
Jack, how good is it?
Is it a jack?
7. Fuck.
It's a dream.
Yeah, I needed an 8. I needed an 8.
How nice was I? Didn't put in like 15, boring, take the 3. You know, we got to do...
I would have folded.
I know, no shit. That's why I wanted to do something small and fun, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Took 5 of mine. That's okay. I could have checked.
For this hand, we have the double straddle on, so we're playing 1-3-6-12 and we look down at Queen 10 offsuit on the buttons, so this is, you know, for me good enough to raise. I go ahead and open to $30 and only the first straddler makes a call. The flop comes King 9-3 with 2 diamonds. We have a backdoor flush draw as well as a gut shot, and that's enough to c-bet, so I go ahead and make it $35 to go, and our opponent folds. For our last hand of the recap, it's pretty late in the night at this point. The table's winding down. There's an under the gun open to 12, and we look down at ace-king offsuit in the small blind. Mandatory 3-bet here, so I go ahead and make it 45 to go, and under the gun calls, so we are heads up to a flop. The flop comes down Jack 10-6 with 2 hearts. We don't have a heart here, but with my general strategy to c-bet range, I go ahead and make it 40 to go, and our opponent calls. The turn is now the ace of hearts, so bringing in front door hearts, but also giving us top pair top kicker, so decent card overall, but we are out of position, and our opponent can have a variety of strong holdings, a lot of the draws complete, and probably can't really get value from hands like Queen Jack, Queen's hand, maybe one straight on the river we can, but either way, I opt to check for pot control, and our opponent checks back. The river is an 8, which is a pretty innocuous card. It does bring in Queen 9, but aside from that, more or less a brick. I check it over to our opponent here, just because maybe I'm a little tentative at the end of the night. I'm not really sure. It does seem in hindsight to be a pretty clear value bet, but nonetheless, so we check it over to her, and she checks back, so we just table the ace-king, and it's good. So that's going to do it for the recap here. It was a pretty exciting session, but for me personally, I did run a little bit card dead, so there's not so many featured hands. We were into the game for 450 and out for 720, so a modest profit of 270 there, and we keep the streak going. It was a very fun session, and ever since starting the poker vlog, I've enjoyed making the videos a lot more. I, engage with my table mates a lot more, a lot of banter, a lot of entertaining moments, so hopefully I can bring more of this to you guys, and hopefully you guys really enjoy this type of format a little bit more. I've got 2 more vlogs coming up before the end of the year, before we take a little bit of a break, and then I'll return in 2021 even stronger, so I'm constantly looking to improve on these videos. Again, if you have any feedback or recommendations, feel free to let me know. And if you do like this kind of videos, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel. And aside from that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Yeah. I mean, like half an hour earlier, I just wouldn't even consider putting it in. Like, it's got to be like fucking kings every time. Like, my hand's not even that good, but whatever. A $25 banter.